Why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order? The first meeting of the 2015-2016 term of Georgetown City Council. And welcome, everyone. Tracy, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Erdley?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Sains?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
We have quorum. If y'all could give me just a slight indulgence at the first of the meeting, just a couple of comments I wanted to make to the council. Very excited to be serving with this group of council members. I think it's a very strong council, a core group of 5 strong returning council members, and 3 new council members to help us with different perspectives and different points of view that we all might benefit from. I want to point out to the council and make sure everybody is aware that we sit here today with a bit of a historic city council. Tonight we're meeting with 4 female members of the Georgetown City Council, and I'm not sure that's ever occurred before. I've heard the Lexington Fayette Urban County Council speak with pride, and the Lexington Herald Leader editorialize with pride over the fact that the Urban County Council consists of 7 females on their 15-member council.
Wow.
We're just a little bit better than that. We're at exactly 50%. And I think that's something we can all have pride in. I think it shows a very progressive electorate in Georgetown, and want to welcome everybody here. Just a couple of small tweaks to our meetings that I wanted to explain to the public. I've had an opportunity to speak with each of the council members about these small changes, but we want to make small changes to make the experience of a citizen appearing before the Georgetown City Council more friendly, easier. We want public input. And the more we can present a welcoming face to that, I think it will serve us well. In that regard, I've asked Tracy to get rid of the egg timer, and we have removed it from the bench. During public comments, we still have an expectation that people treat the council's time with respect and the other members of the audience time with respect. So as people come to the podium, we're not going to use an egg timer, but we do have an expectation that conversations be courteous and expeditious, and it will be my role as chair of the meeting to bring some comments to a close or urge people to move on in that way. So I just wanted you to know that we won't have quite as rigid a time limit, but we are going to insist that everyone respect each other's time. The other tweak that we'd like to make is members of the public have come before the council on many occasions and had an interest in a particular issue on the agenda, but that issue may fall much later in the meeting. And if we restrict public comment only to that first part of the meeting, it's hard for a citizen to interact with the council when we're in the decision-making mode of the meeting, when we're later into the action items. And what I would hope to do in that situation is first have full discussion among council members. Let council ask all of their questions, get all of the information they want, and get your question satisfied. But once the council is through discussing an issue, that we open it up to the public to make a comment or two or ask their question. Again, that's something that we will have to control and hope that everyone will be respectful and courteous of our effort to make this a more positive experience for everybody. So with that little bit said, you have the minutes of the last council meeting of December the 8th, 2014. If you'd like to take a moment to look those over for any possible corrections or additions. Thank you. Before we vote on the minutes, could we please stand for a moment of silence. Then I'll ask Councilmember Lesby to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Shall we pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now back to the minutes of December the 8th, 2014. Are there any questions or additions to the minutes? If not, I entertain a motion that they be approved. Mr. Lesby? Second, Ms. Tackett. And if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. In your council meeting packet, each of you should have received a number of check registers. Now, typically, during, I think, a typical council cycle, you'll see 2 check registers. Is that right, Stacy, typically? Since we did not have a council meeting in late December, it's a little unusual this time. You've got 3 check registers in your packet, but just want to, if each of you could indicate that you received your check registers. Thank you. And now to try this brand new experiment with public comments, let me first call on Mr. Byron Moran.
Mayor Prather, distinguished members of the 2015 City Council. My name is Byron Moran, and my purpose here tonight is to, every year, the Georgetown, Scott County NAACP does the Martin Luther King activities for the entire community. And so I want to come and invite everyone in our community, and starting with the City Council, to come out and participate in all the activities. Saturday morning, I left the information on in front of you about the breakfast. And the reason why we do this breakfast, we have an Asian society that likes to participate in some of the Martin Luther King activities, and so it gives them an opportunity to come out and participate, and not because they're maybe too old to march. And so we came up with this idea for them to come out and have to be a part of the activities. And also, I've talked to Chief of Police and mentioned with you, Mayor, about asking for permission for the march, the annual march that we do down Main Street. Spoke with Miss Hoffman this morning about getting the proper permits in order to get that activity started. I get that to you this week, so we can get that taken care of. And with that being said, I'd just like to welcome everybody out to the march in the program on Monday and the breakfast on Saturday.
The march on Monday, Byron, 4 o'clock?
4 p.m. on Georgetown College campus, right in front of the Student Center.
With the march and then a service afterwards?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where's the service going to be afterwards?
The service is it's a service.
Isn't it First Presbyterian?
First
Church?
Presbyterian, yeah. How could I forget? Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why it kind of escaped me for a second, because Georgetown College kind of organizes the actual program that Monday.
Okay.
NAACP does the march and the breakfast. So it's kind of a collaborative effort, so sorry for that misstep.
So what we would ask is council for a approval for them to have the march and close the necessary streets.
Make a motion, Mayor, as long as all of their permits come in place. It's fine.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. Any questions for Mr. Moran? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done.
Thank you so much.
And another point of privilege, we have a resolution slated for later in the agenda, but while Byron's here, we thought it appropriate to go ahead and deal with, it's actually a proclamation honoring Martin Luther King Day.
Proclamation, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing social justice, equality, opportunity for all, and whereas Dr. King challenged Americans to realize their greatest potential and then use it to create a better society for all. And whereas in 1994, the United States Congress designated the Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday as a national day of service and charged the Corporation for National and Community Services with leading this effort. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday is a national day of service that offers an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities while making an ongoing commitment to service throughout the year. And whereas service projects are being organized by a wide range of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. commissions, AmeriCorps, programs, and nonprofits with activities that include volunteering to repackage and sort food donations, sorting donated goods for homeless adults and children, backpacks with essential items for displaced veterans, and whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And now, therefore, I, Tom Prather, Mayor of Georgetown, Kentucky, do hereby proclaim January the 19th, 2015 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in Georgetown, Kentucky, and command its observance to all citizens in our city to thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to their communities and to honor Dr. King's legacy through service.
Thank you. These don't require a council vote, but I think it would be appropriate that we ask for one, if you'd like.
Make a motion to support your proclamation for Martin Luther King Day. Second.
We've got seconds all over the place.
You go ahead and give it to a new
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Brian. We look forward to seeing you Saturday and Monday.
Thank you so much.
Brian, would you like to take this proclamation with you this evening? You're welcome. Next on the list of public comments is Wayne Lacey.
Hi.
Hi.
I have some photos here for you guys. I'm Wayne Lacey. I own the building on the corner of Water Street and Main Street. And my only question is there's a dead tree on the corner and we can't see. So I'm gonna...
Okay.
My only question is that you can't see at all. When you're on the corner, it's like 19 feet. Everybody has to actually go into the street to make the turn as it is. And the tree's actually dead anyway. It's toast. It's all covered with ivy and kudzu and everything else is going to fall down. We cut the some visual for us so we can see. Since I bought the building, I go out there and I have a little chainsaw thingy and I cut it when I can. I actually broke it the other day and get the finish. So there's another lady out there that helps every once in a while too. But my major problem is the tree, just seeing stuff, and they're wrecking there all the time anyway. We never had a crash, but I mean we're extra careful. But I just think that it's going to fall down and hurt someone anyway. There's kids over there and stuff, and people come and they wait over there and they sit under that tree and stuff. So I see them sitting there all the time.
It's something that we'll be glad to take a look at and have our Public Works Department
I appreciate
evaluate. Do we have your contact information, Mr. Lacey?
I mean, I don't know if I put it on there, but you can write it on there if you want. It's 502-603-8030, and I'm the rug wash. I'm right on the corner.
We'll be glad to take a look at it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
does the city own that piece of property, since that's is it all city, or is it Park and Recs or water company?
I suspect it's the city's.
Okay. I was thinking if it's under Park and Recs, they might need to look at it.
Yeah, we had, it's clearly a part of Royal Spring Park.
Right.
And between us or Parks and Recreation, we'll definitely look at it, get an answer from Mr. Lacy. That's all we had listed for public comment. Is there anyone else in the audience that had intended to address the council? Thank you. Under mayor's comments, since I've already made some comments, but let me get into some of the action items. The three new council members may have watched the December the 8th council meeting, and there were several appointments made at that time. The mayor made several appointments and asked the council to ratify those appointments. There were questions about whether or not the council had the ability to do that, since the vacancies did not actually occur until 12/31 of 14. Ms. Tingle-Sames suggested, and I think it is the correct suggestion, that this council ratify those appointments again so that we can take that action after their term, the other term of office would have expired. So you have in your packet thank you. An executive order authorizing us to ratify and confirm the appointments made by executive orders number 14006, 007, 008, and 009. Council will, I'm sure, remember those appointments, but they were Eric Flagg to the Georgetown Scott County Parks and Recreation Board, Lindsay Apple to the Georgetown Board of Adjustments, Roy Coronet to the Georgetown Scott County Tourism Commission, and Michael Portwood to the Georgetown Scott County Airport Board. So I believe that is an appropriate action for this council to take at this time, simply ratifying those appointments. So is there a motion to that effect?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Mayor Sames.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chuck. Motion's been, Mr. Brownlee. If there's any question about those, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item B under this agenda shows an executive order approving appointments to the Tourism Commission. We have two appointments to make at this particular time to the Tourism Commission. One of those was a resignation from one of the appointments that you made late in the year. So we actually have two appointments to make. One is Ms. Harrington from the Winter Circle as a hotel person, and the second one was a real opportunity, we think, for the Tourism Commission, Ms. Nicole Rivera, who actually works at the Kentucky Horse Park, is a Georgetown resident that works at the horse park, and there's so many rich opportunities for us to partner in a tourism sense with the horse park that her appointment made great sense. So I'll ask for a motion to approve those two appointments.
Make a motion.
Ms. Singer Early with the motion. Is there a second? Mr. Showalter. Great. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next on your agenda, I'd like to explain in a little greater detail. It's the executive order approving the appointments to the Building Code Board of Appeals. The prior council talked about this at some length, the need for a Board of Appeals for building code. That board had been established but not appointed yet. And our building inspector, Jim Burgess, has been very keen on getting these appointments made. He put this list together and has recommended it to me, and I'm bringing it forward to you all tonight. I know the previous council will recall you worked on the language a little bit, David, because certain construction trades had to be represented since this is an appeals board for construction type type issues. So we were a little bit inherently limited by who can be on this board, since they have to have some experience in these trades. We want to do these appointments in a very open and transparent way, and bring any questions that we had to your attention, and what our resolution of those questions were. And on this one, I very much appreciate former Mayor Sames bringing some concerns to my attention after she received the packet. So Mr. Hartley, Mr. Burgess, and I have drilled down into this issue pretty deeply. And it has to do with any potential conflicts of interest, where we want to address those up front when we're aware of them, and give our explanation of where we think a conflict may exist or may not exist. The one question that some could have is Mr. Matt Welch is a very well-respected commercial developer and builder, and there was a question about any potential conflict of interest from Mr. Welch. What we have determined from Andrew's reading of the law, number one, there's a grandfather clause that pretty much makes this appointment not subject to that legal concern. Secondly, we've had Mr. Burgess have detailed conversations with Mr. Welch about any potential for a conflict, and the expectation that he would recuse himself in the event of any such conflict. And that assurance has been given. And with those additional pieces of information, I'm comfortable in bringing you these recommendations for this board. So the names on your executive order would be Brent Combs, Matt Welch, Brad Frazier, are appointed to the Building Code Board of Appeals for 4-year terms to expire on 12/31/18. In addition to that, Derek Goldley and Doug Rogers will be appointed for 2-year terms, which will expire on 12/31/16. So I would make those appointments and ask the council to ratify those.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Thompson.
Second.
Second. Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question, Mr. Harley? I have some association with Mr. Welch as well. Should I abstain from this since we're doing them all as a group?
Yeah, if you feel that's
I'll be glad to
appropriate.
do that.
So noted. Any other questions, comments?
I do have one question on the, where it's effective immediately for the 2-year term. When that's over, would those two people be allowed or obliged to serve another 2 years if they wanted to, or are they appointed?
I would think that, our practice, our guidelines are people can have 2 full terms, and this would represent, that 2-year term would represent a partial term. So I would think they would still be eligible for 2 full terms after that.
I'm not sure. At least one more, certainly, but I don't know if they get another one on top of that. It
Okay.
depends on the length of that term, I think.
Alrighty then.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we note Mr. Lubsey's abstention. Thank you. Council member committee appointments. This has been a fascinating process. Many of you may not be aware that the council, through our code, has 4 standing committees that are routinely appointed. They haven't met routinely in recent time. Finance Committee has met routinely, and
More routinely.
yeah, more routinely. The others have not been that active over just the last couple of years, but we anticipate re-engaging the council in those committee assignments. And what I've attempted to do, as I sat down with these 4 standing committees and how to allocate all this rich talent on the council to those particular committees, what we've managed to do with these appointments that I'm getting ready to make, we managed to put at least 1 returning council member on each of the committees. So we didn't put 2 new council members on any one council together. And I was pleased that since we have 4 females on the council, that we have a male and a female on each of these committees. So that wasn't a requirement, but it was just something that was kind of fun to do. So I'll let you know that Police Committee, I'd like to ask Ms. Erdley and Ms. Showalter to serve on the Police Committee. And what's really interesting to me is in the coming 2 years, each of these committees are going to have some pretty focused assignments to look at. For Finance, I would like to return Mr. Lusby and Ms. Tackett to the Finance Committee. You all have had some experience on that committee, and I think it makes sense, given our challenges, to keep that experience in place. In Public Works, I would ask Mr. Thompson and Ms. Butcher to serve on the Public Works Committee. And for the Fire Committee, I would like to ask Ms. Karen Tingle-Sames and Mr. Chuck Bradley. We will work with the department heads of each of these departments about convening your committee meetings so that you can begin to come more up to speed on one particular. You're going to have a responsibility to understand all of our departments, but this allows you to have one that you focus on just a little more carefully. The mayor serves on each of these committees, so it'll be a 3-person committee working with your department head just to drill a little more deeply into each of these departments. I look forward to working with you on each of those. You also have a municipal order approving the addition of funds to the council training and travel budget. This came up specifically as we considered the upcoming City Official Academy that the Kentucky League of Cities puts on. It's scheduled for later this month. I think it's a very helpful 2.5-day conference that helps you with background information about our form of government and the issues that we face in this form of government, but also as a real positive networking opportunity to meet elected officials from other communities that are wrestling with the same issues that you are. There's benefit to the formal sessions, but there's also benefit to the hallway conversations with your peers from other communities. I think it's important that we take advantage of these educational and training opportunities. We'd like to bring more of them to your attention and create an expectation that we take advantage of these training opportunities. We did not have a formal budget line item established for this type of training, but we want to ask you to attend, but we think the city should pay for those training costs. This particular City Official Academy is going to be held at the Embassy Suites in Lexington, so we can eliminate overnight stays and the added expense of those things. The actual conference registration, I believe, is $159 since we are a KLC member city. So just doing the math pretty simply, if all 8 council members elected to attend this training, it would be a cost of $1,381, including a little bit of mileage money for those who may make the trip. I don't know that all 8 council members can attend, but we want to make it available to you and have the funding available to pay for that should you choose to do so.
It's the 21st through the 23rd of next week.
21st through 23rd. First day is a half a day beginning at noon or 1. The second day is a full day, and the third day adjourns early afternoon. A lot of rich content, and I know, Ms. Hurley, you've registered, and Chuck, I believe you mentioned that you might be able to attend. Or
The one in Bowling Green.
You're going to do the one in Bowling Green?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for anybody that has a conflict, they're offering them in 2 parts of the state. I prefer to go to Lexington.
You all have ever seen me carrying around my city officials' legal handbook? It's a very thick book that's sort of like the Bible for city council. And I understand that if you go to that, part of the training is you each get one of those. I mean, that alone makes it worth the $160.
Yeah. So With that explanation, is there a motion to approve this municipal order establishing that city council travel and training budget?
I make a motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Conley. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
Can Arlene kind of maybe send us out email to kind of see who's going to, just to remind us and do that? Okay, thanks.
And since we're going to be traveling back and forth, nobody's staying, I'd be glad to have folks ride with me, and anybody that would like to get together and do that would be glad to do so. Okay, that concludes the mayor's comments portion of your agenda. Mr. Hartley has a resolution authorizing check signatures. Were you aware that was under your part of the agenda?
No, I was not.
Routine piece of business. Our intention when we started this process was simply to take the former mayor's signature off of the signature card and add my name to the signature card. I have asked that an additional name be added to the check signing authority, and that being Arlene Wilson, who is my assistant. We've met today, and we've established an expectation that if I am available, I expect to sign every check we issue. If the city clerk is available, she expects to sign every check that's issued. So in the majority of cases, we would expect it to be either Tracy or myself. In those fairly rare exceptions, when we're not available, then we'll rely on those other signers, which would be in order of use, I think. Stacy as finance director. Again, the vast majority of these, I think, will be handled by the two elected officials. But we wanted to preserve that opportunity for Stacy. We also wanted to add the opportunity for Arlene to be able to do that, kind of keep that within the mayor's office for that check approval as well. We did also leave, for now, the HR director on the check signing card as a fallback position when there is no one else available. And we have an understanding that we'll talk about that via phone before we go to that last gasp effort to have it. Don't think we'll get there.
Well, Mayor, we got to have you sign checks, so I guess we need to go ahead and.
Thank you. Motion's been made, Ms. Ames. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Tackett. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're finally ready for the resolution on the street lighting project. This is Andrew's explanation, but just by way of background, council is aware that one of the great benefits that Georgetown will receive from the Lexus location in Georgetown is a new interstate exchange, which clearly is a big deal for any place. It's certainly going to mean a great deal to Georgetown moving forward. The state of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet will cover the cost of street lighting, the ongoing cost of the street lighting, the monthly cost of that street lighting. The state will pay for the street lighting in the intersection proper. But on the access road that's going to be built from this intersection to Cherry Blossom, about a mile, I think. Is that right, Kim? There's an expectation, and it's an advantage to the city that we have those streetlights. The state's under no requirement to put them in. I think we clearly want that area well lit. So council needs to agree to pay those ongoing streetlight costs for the streetlights that are not a part of the intersection proper. Preliminary engineering drawings show that will be around 94 streetlights that we'll be responsible for. I'm not sure that the final design is complete yet, but we think that's about the approximate number of streetlights that we'll be responsible for. So with that bit of background, Andrew, anything you need to add?
Pretty much covered it. There's an agreement in your packet that the state has asked us to sign, and we made a little tweak to it to make it clear that we were responsible only for the portion of the road, excluding the exchange and the off-ramps. I'm told that's actually unnecessary because the state is required by federal law to pay for those lights anyway. But that is the agreement, and what we're essentially getting out of paying for the cost of the lighting is that they pay to have the lights installed. That's essentially it in a nutshell.
It's a relatively routine piece of business, particularly when affiliated with an infrastructure benefit of this magnitude. Kim, John, anything you all would like to add to this explanation?
Just real quick, so it does also.
You want to come up?
Thank you, Mayor. Kim Minke with Toyota. It also continues from the interchange all the way to Champion Way as well. So it includes that entire piece. It does not include the section that goes to Toyota. Toyota picks up all those costs as well. But the other neat thing about this project is we were able to negotiate a much more attractive interstate interchange as well. So hopefully will become a good signature gateway to Georgetown.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd make a motion for approval.
Thank you. Motion's been made.
Second.
Ms. Conway with the second. Any questions?
Just a quick question. It's a little bit aside from the lights. What is the start time? Do we have a start time on the intersection actually starting? When?
The contract's been let.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 8 on your agenda is a municipal order approving the purchase of a recorder for the 911 system. And Jeb, I think this has been an ongoing conversation with the previous council. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. In approximately October, we accepted 100% grant funding from the CMRS board in Frankfurt. That is the board that receives the funds from your cell phone bills for 911, wireless 911. They are completely underwriting the cost of the recorder, and as part of it, we put it out for bids. In that process, we received 2 bids on the project. One of those was deemed to be unacceptable. It was non-compliant in at least 4 specific categories that made it ineligible to meet our equipment that we already have in-house. As a part of that, the next bid in the process was higher than the funding that we received from CMRS. After consulting with the city attorney and the first bid being non-compliant, we are allowed to negotiate the price of the higher bid down, and in doing so we saved I think about $7,000 and negotiated that price down to the exact cost of the grant that we received. So in doing that, I'm here before you to ask that you approve the municipal order so we can go ahead with that purchase.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
I had them everywhere. I heard Ms. Early first. Any other questions? Jeb, I understand that that's a multi-track. You're basically recording everything that comes into your dispatch center. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's 44 channels. It records all of the phone lines, all of the radio channels for police, fire, EMS, as well as recording the actual 911 room proper itself in case anything ever comes up liability-wise.
An absolutely essential piece of equipment.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are no other questions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Kyle. More streetlights.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. A resident requested some streetlights over on Elizabeth Street. Elizabeth Street is off of 460 to the west of here. This street only has 1 light currently at 460. It is a city street, and I'm recommending 3 new lights.
Motion, Mayor.
Ms. Taggart with the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Thompson? Any questions? Much of this is pretty routine, folks, but it's important that we do. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Next item on your agenda, item 10, is a municipal order approving uniform vendor. And Chief Ward will help us understand this situation better. The prior council approved, for the new council members, we give each firefighter an allowance each year of $600 to buy pieces to their uniform that they may need. They can choose which pieces of their uniform they need to buy to keep it current and appropriate for the job. So prior council had bid this, picked a vendor, but I think there were some exceptional problems with service and quality that led to a mutual understanding between both the vendor and the fire department to get away from that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. Mayor, Council, good evening. What the mayor said is absolutely correct. I think it was in August that we came before council. We went out for bids for this. We had 3 vendors that actually bid on our uniforms. And, you know, I guess it was August 20th when we came before council to ask approval for that company. Since that approval was granted, we've had continuous meetings with this vendor. We've actually, you know, I think it was toward the middle of actually 1st of September, our guys started placing orders for uniforms. And we started getting a few here and there. The ones we got had several, like, big kind of issues to us. And, you know, especially if we're paying the money for this, we sent them back. We actually had meetings with the owner. We had Andrew involved with this as well. And like the mayor said, we're, you know, kind of at the end of the day come to a conclusion that we need to part ways. So basically we're coming before you tonight to ask that we be able to go with Bluegrass Uniforms as our vendor of choice for department uniforms.
Still within your budget, John?
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, and what we've already done is some people, like I said, have placed orders on some things and have actually received some things. Not everything was bad, but the majority of it was. So we've already made a determination what everybody's already spent. So when we go with this new vendor, as long as you all approve it, we would get with them, and you know it'd be X number of dollars if this employee's already spent. You know, some employees haven't spent anything, so they would be updated. You know, because like I said, each employee only has $600 to spend, and it's all contained within that uniform allowance in the budget.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
What was some of the issues you were actually having?
Embroidery issues, not like on this uniform. It's all, you know, got the brass on it, but a lot of our like polos, our day-to-day polos that we wear, the embroidery was off on them. Like you could have, you know, embroidery on this chest and this chest. One would be high, one would be low. Just placing orders too. Like I said, we started placing orders after it was approved by council, like in September, and even up until what was it?
Just last month.
It was past 1st of December. It was past Thanksgiving. Those orders still hadn't been filled completely.
And you had a conversation with the owner of the company, and their comment to you was?
Well, actually, me and Fire Marshal Fryman had a meeting with the owner at the station and addressed the problems, and he agreed. Yeah, that, you know, because we provided them to him, and he actually took them with him. And he said he would, you know, next day he'd have them fixed, but they didn't. And I don't know. He wrote us a letter. He actually sent it to the city. You know, I don't know. It's just, you know, it's kind of one of those things that I think he's seen it, but I just don't know if he had all the answers on how to fix it, you know, with this company.
What was the letter? What did the letter say?
Well,
I didn't bring that with me. I should have
we
brought that with me.
indicated to the company that we felt that there were quality issues, and we described those quality issues very specifically. A lot of it had to do with the embroidery. And in a nutshell, his argument was, we think you all are being overly picky.
Yeah, he did say that, yeah. Yeah.
They did not agree with our assessment of the quality of their embroidery, especially, and just said we're not going to be able to come to mutual terms as to what is satisfactory of the contract. So,
But I mean, we even brought samples up here and showed Andrew and, other people. I mean, it wasn't,
So they're no longer wanting to work with the city then, to meet
no.
what you want?
I mean, we had a conference call with him, I guess it was the last, day, and Andrew was, we were all in the office talking with him, and at the end of the day, he said, okay, well, because, there were some things we still owe for. And then, so he was like, okay, we'll like the stuff we still wasn't happy with, he said, send them back and I'll give you credit for them.
Okay. And there's no conflict with this company with Bluegrass Uniform?
With Kentucky uniforms? And
Well, with Bluegrass Uniform, because that's who you want to go with now, right?
yes,
Bluegrass.
yeah.
There's nobody from the fire department that works with them or from them?
No. There's we used to have somebody that worked with them, but we don't currently. No, we don't have anybody working with them. And part of that too is, because you'll find that across the fire service in general, where firefighters will work with different vendor companies, because who better to sell for you than somebody that knows the trade. But one of the things, just so you all would be guaranteed and know of, just like going out for bids of fire trucks or this uniforms, is, we'll go out for bids, the RFPs, and, each company has the opportunity to submit a bid on what we're asking, and then we'll also form a committee that will review all the bids once they come in. And, that's one thing we're really, good at. If we do have an employee that's working for a company, they're not included, They're, it's the committee that looks at and reviews the bids is, it's unbiased thing.
Is there a termination in that contract with Kentucky Uniform?
A termination?
Is there a termination contract? Okay.
Yeah. But I just want you to, rest assured of that too. We're not, especially, we're very careful, cautious with that.
Good.
Yeah.
Connie,
I'm good.
you're good?
Yes, thank you.
And just to follow up on that question, it's something that Chief Ward and I have talked about. And I think that is a fairly common practice in the fire equipment industry. It's not a practice that we're comfortable with. And I've asked Chief Ward that in the future, that we not purchase items from companies that employ any of our firefighters on either a salary or commission basis.
Yeah.
Even though it is widely done within the fire industry.
Yeah,
It's not appropriate for us going forward.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion, Mayor?
Please.
Motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
speak quicker now.
Really quick. Quick.
If there are no further questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, and if I could, Connie, just to make sure that our documentation is as complete as it can be, I wanted to make sure that on the record on this particular issue, we cited that there were both quality concerns and service concerns as our underlying reason for making this change. I think it's important that we be clear as a public body about that.
Yes. Mayor,
Yes,
if I could, I'd like to introduce
Please
the
do.
Assistant Chief to the Council. Mayor, Council, here recently we had opened up applications for the Assistant Chief position. Since I was promoted, that left us a vacant spot in that position. I just tonight want to introduce you to the new Assistant Chief, Eric Coulson.
Appreciate the opportunity and look forward to working with you guys and ladies.
Welcome on board.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to enlighten us on this morning, this evening, Assistant Chief? Thank you very much. Glad to have you.
Council.
Chief Bossy, do we just save the best for last? Is that what it is?
The building obviously is still underway, and we are closing. We're getting close to the deadline on the pavers. So if you're interested in your family name being on a paver and being in the pavilion portion of the building for the next 150 years, at least that much. Just go to the easiest way to do it is go to our Facebook, Georgetown Police Department Facebook, and their order forms all on there and everything. We can do electronically for you. We had a incident on Friday at Kohl's that looked like a standard shoplifting. It wound up being a strong arm robbery. Pursuit ensued out Paris Pike when the speeds hit over 100 miles an hour. We called it. It was too dangerous for our citizens and our officers. Your detectives have been working very diligently on that and have identified the 3 parties involved. They are involved in other crimes in the region, and we are working with our backups people, and we're very close to taking care of that problem. So, but that was all through following records and hitting our pawn shops and getting photos, and it was really neat the way they came down with it. So, and on Wednesday, I would remind you that we will be at the Capitol in the Rotunda and presenting to the media the backups program. So the Secretary of State will be there, Secretary of Justice, the Mayor will be there. That's at 11:30 if you're interested in attending. Okay.
Just while the chief's at the podium, some of you may have been at the Georgetown Scott County Chamber of Commerce banquet this afternoon, and Chief Bossy was the speaker. Ethics and leadership, and I can tell from talking with a number of chamber members after it was over, the crowd was very impressed. It was an outstanding job, Chief. Well, we're at this time of the meeting where council comments are in order. And I'm not even sure how you all would like to do this. Would you prefer we go around the table and give everyone a chance, or would you simply like to speak if you have something of substance to speak?
What did you say, Polly?
So we could go in line, or if we're good.
If we're good.
If we're good, we're good. Actually, I would like to say I did the Citizens Police Academy, and I saw the ethics and leadership talk that Chief Bossy gave, and it is so impressive. I mean, it just, it really blew me away. So we're very fortunate, I think. But I'm good. I don't have any questions.
All right. Millie, anything that you'd like to add this evening? Good. Marvin?
Fine tonight.
You're good. Mark?
Yes. There's several places
Behind
that
us.
seem to me anyway, that seem to be getting worse on that wall.
I was thinking that when I walked in. This especially up here looks awful.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he said there's a big water problem.
Concrete.
There are, City Hall has some pretty serious issues. And this is an example of one that's clearly water infiltration. And it's been infiltrating for some time, I think. We also have roof leaks in other parts of the building. So we're evaluating those and going to try and bring an inventory to the council of what we see in the building. And Mark, it's also a good time to bring up, I've spoken with each of the council members about this possibility, and the staff and I have talked about the possibility of on a Saturday when the weather just improves slightly. It might be really good for us to have a specially called council meeting for a Saturday, meet down here in jeans and rough clothes, and do a detailed tour of this building, look at the uglies, look at what might be needed. Then load ourselves on maybe Georgetown College's mini bus or something and go to Public Works and actually look at their facility and look at their equipment. Go to the 3 fire stations, go to our salt barn, go touch all of the things that the city owns and the assets with which we're supposed to give service. In a business, you got earning assets, and we have service assets, but it's the way we serve our citizens. And I think it'd be helpful for me and the council if we took a collective look at these things. That's not acceptable in the public's chambers. This is a public asset, and it's our responsibility to protect that public asset. Couldn't agree more.
Just want to know who the council's game to go up in the attic. Last time I went in the attic, I had to have the fire department get me out.
I nominate Marvin and Polly.
What we gotta do is Assistant Chief.
Yeah, I set him up.
There you go.
He's little and young.
Oh, yeah, young, full of energy.
Yeah.
Probably bounces higher than we do.
Exactly.
We wouldn't be admitting that, Karen.
Mark, that you've pointed out the obvious, and we need to look at it squarely and see what our found situation is. Thank you. Chuck?
I would just like to affirm my support for your restructuring of the meeting. I remember as a citizen from coming to speak to the council, how intimidating it was to try to speak on a subject before it was even discussed. So I'm glad that you took that route.
Good, thank you. Connie?
I'm just looking forward to this year and what it entails for the city. I think we're at such a really good place right now, and I'm excited about what we can do for our community moving it forward. And the other thing I'd like to say, I've done the CPA as well as Polly has, and it's pretty fun. But something else that I enjoy, and I just did this last week, is I did a ride-along with one of the police officers.
Yeah.
It is like, they won't let me take my gun, but they'll let me go. They won't let me have the gun. But it's very enlightening.
It
to
is.
what they do.
You really see, I mean, the day-to-day of it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So I
Intense.
highly encourage it.
Yeah. I learned so much.
I think I'm going to do it again, only I'm going to do it in the summertime when a lot of stuff's going on, because it was like Christmas Day. It was the long night. We had fun, though. It was good.
All right. Karen?
Oh, I have a petition.
I saved the you for last.
It was on purpose.
Leave it to me. Actually, it was outside of a subdivision that backs in behind where Mr. Showalter and I live. I actually brought this to the shop today, and they actually, the neighborhood, gathered up a petition. Of course, that area, there's about 16 houses all with it. So with the petition, they brought me pictures of what they would like to have. They have a dumpster or a storage box that has sit on the street for 3 years. It hides, now it's not officially, I don't think, part of that street is dedicated, but when they first brought it there was no houses back there. Now there's actually houses and traffic that goes and comes, and they said it's a visibility issue because kids hide behind it, and then they'll come around it to come out in the street when the cars are passing. And so they would like to see what the city can do to have the developer move it onto another area of the property that's not as traveled as heavily, because that is actually a very heavy section there, because everybody from Rocky Creek, where Mr. Showalter and I live, cut through there to cut out into the back of another subdivision. So if you could take that to code enforcement, and here's your petition.
Sounds like another field trip is in order.
Yes.
But you can get that in yourself, I think. I can't wait till a warm Saturday, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I understand.
You wait no more.
Mr. Hartley and I have gone on a couple of field trips where we needed to, and speaking of which, one of the neighbors is here tonight. I'm pleased to report, if any of you drive up Rucker Avenue tonight, you'll see a much cleaner lot. All the debris is gone from the yard. You can actually see from Rucker. You can see from Rucker all the way back to Royal Spring.
Wow.
It's a complete view all the way back through there now. The side yards are cleaned out, and our report this afternoon from Mr. Highlander was that they were raking the front yard. Not the best weather to be raking, but it's clearly a better situation, and we trust you'll continue to let us know if that's not the case. I thought you might. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Karen. Anything else?
Thank you all, too. We appreciate what you're doing.
Good. Is there anything else to come before the council this evening? Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
Good.